Welcome, everyone, to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance and Tommy Chrysan with you on this Hump Day edition. TK joining us courtesy of Tremonti's Meat and Seafood at an undisclosed location. I am at another undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Thanks to everybody who supported the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame with our Santa Super 7 online auction that ended last night. It was another success. The next time around, we have our quarterly online auction will be the St. Patrick's Day week auction in March. So look for that. We'll have a lot of great stuff there. Also, we are presented by LeBear's Casino, where March the 7th, big MMA fight. First time ever. LeBear's Casino is going to host an MMA fight in the event center there in Baton Rouge. They've had boxing about 10 years ago, one time. That was it. Put on by Les Bonanno, the boxing promoter out of New Orleans for many, many decades. But there'll be MMA, and Dustin Poirier is going to be a part of that event. He's going to be there in attendance, be at the weigh-in on Thursday, and then he'll be there on kind of Friday as a celeb, and we'll do some meet and greets and meet some folks. So anyway, you'll be able to get your tickets, I think, starting next week. We'll tell you where and how and all that kind of stuff. Some tables are available, but really cool event. That'll be March the 7th. And, oh, by the way, I've had this people of all ages are welcome. So you don't have to be over 21 because it's not on the casino floor. It's up in the event center, and LeBear's is allowing kids to come. And I know with with Dustin Poirier being there, one of the big names of MMA, there's a lot of folks that want to maybe bring their kids that are fans of the sport. All right, TK, a lot to get to. Number one thing is LSU men's and women. Both won last night in college basketball. The men took on Stetson. This was a Stetson team that came in, I believe, 1-8 on the season. I was there last night. 47-10. That was the score at halftime. LSU was up 47-10 at halftime. It was the third lowest half LSU's ever allowed. And you'd be surprised who against Auburn in 2011. Auburn scored 9 points in the first half, which is, I mean, Auburn's like number one team in the country off and on this year. Back in 2011, Auburn scored 9 points in the first half, and in 82, North Carolina scored 8. That was back before the shot clock and the four corners and all that stuff, I guess. But third lowest half ever allowed by LSU defensively. But how about this, just to show you how even as bad as Stetson is, they're now 1-9 or something on the season. They're really not that bad. They come out in the second half and score like 45. So I mean, and I joked at halftime that I really believe that Stetson played so bad in the first half that if the Rougarou baseball team had a 1-2 hour practice on the hardwood, we could score at least 12 points against Stetson in the first half, the way they played yesterday. It was so bad. But the women, they're now 13-0. They go on the road. They beat Seton Hall, and they're 13-0. So good starts for both teams. The NBA Cup was last night, and Tommy, Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks won the Cup. Giannis is one of the top 5 players in the world. I've seen him play in person, and it's unbelievable. The guy literally can take about 4 strides and run the length of the court. He's so long and strong and big, and just a great player defensively around the rim, all that kind of stuff. And it's not a shock that Milwaukee won, but it is a shock to think this time a year ago, the Lakers won the NBA Cup. And LeBron James and his teammates were almost kind of mocked and a little bit criticized by some for celebrating and making such a big deal about an in-season tournament. But how far the mighty have fallen in a year where, I mean, things are just a disaster in Los Angeles, and LeBron is getting tons of heat.
Yeah, well, there's lots of problems for him on and off the court, and things have changed a lot in the NBA, and a lot of conversation about how in 10 years the TV ratings have gone down. And a lot of people have an idea. I mean, Dan Patrick says, second and third quarter don't have a 3-point shot, make them go inside, make them work the lane a little bit, because it's just become a 3-point. It's a 1-on-5, 1-on-1 that 4 guys get out the way and somebody does it. And it's just nothing but launching 3-pointers. And, they tried with the different courts, for the cup games. They spent all this money. They're trying desperately. I'm not saying the NBA is about to go away, but they got to do something, I mean, baseball put in the pitch clock and the bigger bases. And, I mean, they talk that golden at bat rule is not going to work. But, talking about now having a reward if your starting pitcher goes a certain amount of innings, a transaction award where you could get a free up and down or something. They're trying to figure all that out. Ronnie, the average length, I read this yesterday, the average length of the starting pitcher in MLB, 5 2/3. That's what the average is, 5 2/3. So NBA needs to do something to, now they came out and said the All-Star game's actually going to be 3 teams of 8, and they're going to play like a little mini tournament. And Kevin Durant came out. He thinks that's the dumbest thing he ever heard. He says go back to East-West. I mean, there's just a lot of things, that need attention in the NBA because their TV ratings, and that's what it's all about. The TV money, the TV ratings, spiraling downward.
Yeah, definitely. They're in a all-hands-on-deck crisis to a certain extent to try to tweak it. But at the same time, you don't want to tweak it so much that the game's unrecognizable. I mean, at the end of the day, basketball's basketball, and people do love it if you get it right and act right and all that sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if you don't. A lot of people think they play too many games, but at the same time, if you play less games, then the guys aren't going to be able to get the money. You know what I mean? So if less games, that means less gates, less TV dollars, and nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to take a pay cut. So that's not going to happen. But definitely some rule changes to allow maybe more physical play, possibly. Also, I mean, they're already allowing the travel. I mean, nobody dribbles. You take one dribble and as many steps as you feel like. Stop, start, even. It doesn't even matter. So that part of the game is unrecognizable from a travel or a walk violation deal. They hardly ever blow that whistle. But we saw some things have come out where there's some shot charts where they show like where the shots are from around the perimeter, and it's pretty much either a dunk, layup, or a 3-point shot. It's almost like there's a moat around the basket. You're either shooting beyond the moat or you're shooting on inside the castle dunking, and the intermediate 5 to 15 footer does not exist. And so anyway, yeah, the game is definitely changing, and part of that change is the international play. You're getting the international style of play where true 7-footers are not true 7-footers. They're just, 3 guards that happen to be 7 foot. And that's not a bad thing that the skill set is up. It's just, the type of game it is, and the fact that defense isn't played, or that the stars will sit on back-to-back nights, is sort of a big deal. And then all of a sudden it's a changing of the guard too, Tommy. I mean, all the celebs of the last 20 years are fading out, right? LeBron's got to be coming to an end. And obviously the D Wades and others have left the game, and it's a new game and a different game. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a style taste that's not resonating right now with the viewers at home. Unfortunately, it's going to go in the way of NHL hockey, where it's becoming more niche in the United States, not necessarily international, but niche in the United States. Where, yeah, if you have hockey, an NHL team like St. Louis Blues, for example, they love the St. Louis Blues in St. Louis, and the games are packed, and but they don't watch the St. Louis Blues in New Orleans. You know what I mean? Like that, it's not translating the ratings wise, TV wise, like it used to, but it still has value in those cities. LSU in the portal, TK, football portal, they lost the number one recruit in the country in Bryce Underwood, the quarterback from Michigan that was going to be the savior for LSU football. At the 11th hour, he chose to stay in state and flip to Michigan. And they've basically taken that money and figured out where their needs were and have run with it. And right now have been on fire in the transfer portal.
And Sports Illustrated says they have the number one transfer portal class, however you determine that. But no, Coach Kelly said we're going to get more active, more aggressive in the portal, and they have done that. Getting guys who have put numbers up in the SEC at other SEC schools and other schools in college football. They're getting guys, that have proven that they can do it. Coaches love knowing that a guy can do something. If the guy, if the receiver at Oklahoma can catch touchdowns at Oklahoma, they like that than the guy who's coming out of high school has never caught a college touchdown. Coaches get comfortable with that kind of stuff. And LSU is, they're full speed ahead, working on the portal, probably need to look at some offensive linemen, according to a lot of reports, but they're getting players, they're getting athletes. We know Nussmeier's back, Harold Perkins is coming back. We know the people that have left from Taylor to the offensive linemen. So it's up to Brian Kelly and his staff to fill in the holes and, supplemented by the high school class and compete in the SEC. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, no question. Yesterday, LSU made some news. Nick Anderson, wide receiver out of Oklahoma, one of the top wide receivers in the portal. They signed him. While back, they signed Destin Hill, Florida State wide receiver, a Car High product out of New Orleans. Player, and then, of course, Brown, the kid from Kentucky, who's also a really outstanding kick returner. They signed him last week. The player that may fly under the radar initially, but gotten a lot of love for those that know, the Delane kid, a DB out of Virginia Tech. He supposedly had a third round grade had he gone pro, was expected to be, a second day draft pick, and instead decided to come back, go to LSU, work with Corey Raymond with the hopes of becoming a first round pick. And, consider that LSU used to be DBU under Corey Raymond's sort of watch. So that's a big get. He also can return kicks. I mean, they got some dynamic players. The one that is the most interesting to me because of the hype that he got was Jack Pyburn, the linebacker edge rusher, 6'4", 250 out of Florida. If you remember a week ago, he made headlines because supposedly he went to the Florida coaches and demand playing time, and he had a list of demands. Including, third down, playing it on, it was a list of demands that would have gotten you kicked off the team had you done that 10 years ago, would have had you mocked by the coaching staff. Instead, in this case, they didn't meet his demands. He went into the portal. I talked to some people close to the situation, and they're like, I kind of think that was a little bit overblown, yeah, I'm sure. I think some of it was he knew he was leaving. He probably wanted out, and he was probably a little bit more aggressive with his ask, But at the same time, he's got a little damage control in the PR there, old Pyburn. He's actually got ties to Louisiana. His family has vacationed at False River. Got some connections over there. They have a little private plane. They actually flew it, so it wasn't really about the money. He flew in, did his own, flew in private with the family. He took a visit to LSU and then signed with the Tigers. But it's interesting how a week ago LSU fans are like, hey, who's this guy think he is, demanding the play and demanding all this money? Now he signs at LSU. Well, he had good reason to do that.
Well, you got to be careful on the internet, social media. You can't believe everything. There's a lot of things that are blown up a little bit, embellished a little bit. Some of them are just flat out wrong. And every now and then there's something that's right. Got to consider the source. Like, who put it there? And you got to go with that because there's a lot of stuff on the internet that obviously is not accurate.
No question, LSU's very active in the portal. They've signed early on a lot of players that are ranked highly at their position in the transfer portal. There's over 6,000 players in the transfer portal, which is just unbelievable. But you're right, TK. We haven't seen the haul yet of offensive linemen, and that will be, something they have to get right because LSU is going to lose, two starting offensive linemen to the draft, and they are, they're tackles, and I want to say the offensive line this year was probably the most disappointing area of the team because you thought it was going to be probably your number one strength, and wasn't a weakness, but it wasn't as good as we had high expectations. We thought this was going to be one of the greatest offensive lines LSU's ever had, and I thought for the most part it was an average offensive line.
Yeah, aside from the two tackles, a couple other guys that took a lot of snaps are not going to be there. So, and obviously it starts up front. We all know that with the run game, which Brian Kelly likes to run the football. And then, of course, that opens up the pass. We all know that stuff. So, LSU still got some work to do in the portal. Portal goes till December 28th. So you still got, a week, 9 days to get into the portal and get some guys and go from there because the offensive line is going to need some attention, and maybe we'll see that between now and December 28th.
All right, so we're going to look at not LSU in the portal. Great job so far. Still plenty of work to do. Look at the Packers and Saints on next Monday Night Football. Tommy, the season could be over with for the Saints before they even take the field on Monday.
Yeah, mathematically, they're not eliminated. They don't have the little E next to the team name in the standings yet, but they could be before it kicks off Monday night in Green Bay. Going to be cold. Packers a 14-point favorite. Basically the Saints need to win 3 and have the Buccaneers lose 3 to have a shot at the playoffs. That's not going to happen. No announcement yet on who's going to be the starting quarterback. Carr has been ruled out for the year. Not going to return. And I go back to your question you posed on Monday. What did Rizzi and the staff see last week that made them think Jake Haener gave the team a better chance to win than Spencer Rattler? And I agree with that 100%. And I was in some group text messages, the same thing. Like, why is this guy out there? And then Rattler came in and moved the team a little bit, shook them back in the game, and, 2-point conversion away from getting a W, So, I would think Rattler starts Monday night in Green Bay. Yeah, I mean, you can't. If they put Haener out there, they're basically saying. And right now they pick 10th in the draft. If it were to be today, and that can move a little bit, but Saints don't want to win, 1 or 2 games and end up picking 14th or 15th.
Big news out of Atlanta. The Falcons feel like they're still in it very much at 7-7. With 3 games left to play, a game behind the Falcons. They feel like they've, game behind the Bucks, and I want to say they hold the tiebreaker, right? Because they've won games against the Bucks. So all they got to do is, have the same record as Tampa, and they win the division. And right here it's 7-7, 3 games left to go, 1 game behind the Bucks. It's anybody's guess what's going to happen. Giant change. Kirk Cousins, the $100 million man. He's got a $100 million guaranteed contract. $65 million he's going to make this year. Quarterback to the 36-year-old free agent who came over from Minnesota has not played well the last 4 weeks at all. They're making a change, even coming off of a victory. They're making a change and going with the rookie, Michael Penix Jr., who was a surprise pick, 8th overall by the Falcons in the draft. Nobody thought they were going to take a quarterback that high after Kirk Cousins was the big free agent pickup for them. I'm shocked by this move, Tommy. I would not make it. I would try to fix Kirk Cousins and ride him out down the stretch for the last 3 games at this point in the season with everything still on the line versus riding Michael Penix Jr. And they said he's going to be the starter for the foreseeable future.
I wouldn't make the change either when you got a shot at the playoffs. Okay. I mean, if they had the little E next to Atlanta in the standings, I'm like, okay, let's see what Penix has got. Put him out there, just like the Saints should put Rattler out there and see if he can be a guy in the future. So that's a strange decision for the Falcons at this point in time. Doesn't make a lot of sense financially, but again, with that playoff, still in that playoff picture, I'd rather have Cousins at quarterback than Penix Jr. Now, we might be wrong. Penix Jr. may rally the troops and they win a couple of games and get in the playoffs, but that's an unknown. You know what Cousins can do. We talked about that. Coaches like knowing what guys can do, not at practice, not in college, but what can you do in the game? Can you move the chains? Can you convert third down? Can you put points on the board? It's a strange move by the Falcons, to say the least.
Well, it's clear that this is a move forward, and Michael Penix will be the quarterback of the future, for the Falcons, and that Kirk Cousins is going to be shipped out. They're going to trade him. At this point, what's more realistic, that Michael Penix Jr., a rookie quarterback who's never played, in an NFL game, is going to right the ship, and he's going to play 3 good games, and you're going to make the playoffs, and because you're going to go 3-0, and the Falcons and the Bucs are going to lose a couple, or is it likely that Kirk Cousins is going to right the ship and not necessarily play great, but I mean, can fix himself? This is a guy who's had so many snaps, he's won so many games, he's had a really good career. I'm just surprised. I'm pulling for Michael Penix from a standpoint of, I love lefty quarterbacks, being a left-hander myself, grew up a Kenny Stabler fan, but I'm just surprised by this. A gamble. It's a big time gamble. Clearly the coaches are desperate for a spark in Atlanta, and clearly they are convinced that Kirk Cousins can't get out of the funk that he's got right now, and that he's not the same player. Remember, he's coming off of a Achilles injury, where it's a shock he's actually playing this year, and maybe they're just seeing some stuff physically and don't believe he's got it anymore.
Well, they're seeing the other 6 days of the week, and they've made this decision based on that. And we'll look back in a couple of weeks whether it was a good decision or a bad one. But as we said, it's a little bit strange, especially with the playoffs still in the balance.
All right, we'll dive into it more on Friday morning, the college football playoffs. But Friday night, the college football playoffs begin. It'll be the first ever on-campus playoff football games at the highest classification. Notre Dame hosting Indiana, the highest, most expensive ticket. In Notre Dame's a 7.5-point favorite against Indiana. Going to be cold. Going to be at night. The average ticket price, like just the cheap tickets, are $700-800 for this thing. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing if it feels and looks different, Tommy. I expect that the intensity and the excitement of college football is going to be like NFL playoffs. I mean, it's going to be when you go to the Dome, when the Saints are playing in the Dome in a wild card playoff game, like, it's different than when they're playing the Lions in the regular season. And I feel like that's going to be it. If Notre Dame's hosting Indiana, yeah, it's a big game because they're both from the same state. But in the playoffs, I think it's going to be just even more rabid.
Well, we know in baseball, the playoffs are different. In football, NFL is different. NBA is different. Hockey is different. College football, we're treading into diving in a different part of the pool now. And we're going to find out, I got to believe it's going to be different for those teams and for those fans. And TV is going to hype it up. I mean, that whole playoff thing, it's going to get hyped up. And then you got the triple header Saturday. So, yeah, it's going to be different because it is different. And it's brand new in the world of this division, college football.
Out of the 4 playoff games this weekend, Notre Dame hosting Indiana, Texas hosting Clemson, Penn State hosting SMU, and Ohio State hosting Tennessee. Which visiting team do you give the best chance to win?
Tennessee. I think Tennessee's got the best chance to win. Ohio State tends to struggle in big games, if you will, whether it's Michigan or Oregon. But Tennessee, they didn't have to play in that SEC championship game. They should be, geared up, ready to go, eating raw meat. They got to be ready to go. And I really, of the 4, I like Tennessee to have a chance to win that one straight up. Games at Ohio State, we know that. I love Tennessee in 7 or 7.5 points if you want to go to the ESPN Bet Sportsbook. But that's the one that jumps out at me. I don't think Clemson's got a shot against Texas, although I think I'd love to see Texas lose because I don't like Texas. But, a lot of people think SMU got a chance to make noise at Penn State. So, hey, it's a brand new thing. It's going to be exciting. And then the excitement is going to build because then you're going to have 4 games the next week in about 9 or 10 days after that are going to be exciting as well.
Tell us about Tremonti's Meat and Seafood as we get out of here.
Yeah, well, they got bourbon baskets now. High-end bourbon, Heaven's Door, Angel's Envy, Wild Turkey, high-end stuff. They put these little gift baskets together. It's a great idea if you put it in the closet at home when that neighbor comes over to bring you a gift and you didn't get one for that neighbor. Well, then you got one now. So they've been moving off the shelf quickly. He's putting different baskets out each and every day. Of course, everything you need for Christmas. They got their holiday schedule online. So check out Tremonti's, Mike and the staff, very busy like they were at Thanksgiving. They appreciate everybody, and the prime rib, the turkeys, the whole bit, turducken. If you want to go with the turducken thing, they got them there. Get a gift card or get one of those bourbon baskets. They've been flying off the shelf.
All right, for Tommy Krysan, I'm Ronnie Rance. Please like and share this video. We will see you Friday morning for another edition of Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Have a good one.
Real quick, radio's 9 to 11 this Saturday, 9 to 11 due to those college playoffs. So join Sports Shorts Radio 9 to 11 this Saturday. We'll be live at the Bruley Walk-Ons. As Ronnie said, like and share this show, no matter whether you're watching on YouTube, X, or Facebook. Like and share this show. We'll be back Friday morning for another episode. Everyone have a really good day.